Everyone, this is Glitch. He's going to cover building your blue team arsenal. Whenever you're ready.
All right, everyone. So thank you to IntrosetCon for having me, and thank you for everyone that showed up. I am Glitch, and this is building your blue team arsenal. So just a quick disclaimer, views expressed in this talk are mine, do not represent my employer or organization in any way. So just need to get that out of the way real quick. So who am I? So I am an incident response analyst. I have been one for about 7 months now. So just started that. Prior to that, I did have about 3 years of general IT experience. So IT support, help desk. So I was doing that prior to transitioning into my incident response role. I am a recent college graduate, just graduated in December with a bachelor's in cybersecurity. And I do hold 2 security certificates, one being from Cisco, the CCNA CyberOps, and the other from CompTIA being the Security Plus. So given all this information, I like to kind of consider myself still a noob, definitely someone that is just beginning their InfoSec career. And the purpose for this talk was to go ahead and share my experiences and just different tips and tools that will definitely make you make your transition into InfoSec just a little bit easier. When I first got into it, it was very challenging just to kind of figure out kind of the do's and don'ts, just figure out different strategies as far as how to put myself out there, especially given I had no prior security experience to this. So that was kind of the main purpose for this talk, is just to kind of share that knowledge and those resources with you, so that way that transition for you will be a little bit less challenging. And of course, my Twitter handle @_glitchxr. Go back one. All right, so for today's lesson, we got 3 different topics, and although it does seem kind of short, there's a lot of context kind of packed into these topics. So the first that I'm going to go over is just jobs, discussing different job requirements, you know, reading through those, trying to pick out keywords that you can kind of take away from those to see what you can do to put yourself in the best position possible when you are ready to apply for that job. The next, which is kind of like the meat and potatoes of this talk, are the security tools I'm going to be discussing. So there's different tools that you can use to kind of prepare you for a role in a blue team role. So I'm going to definitely discuss those in a little bit of depth. And then last but not least is the experience. So there's always that kind of that age-old question, how do I get experience before experience? So I'm going to talk and discuss a little bit about different strategies you can use to deploy those strategies to kind of get you that experience that you can translate into interviews. So for job requirements, so let's be honest, who actually reads the entire job posting? I know myself personally, when I would look for jobs, I would typically just kind of bypass the typical job duties and kind of just went directly to job requirements. I wanted to see how I stacked up and what I can do to kind of check off those boxes to see if that was a job that I can apply for and be considered for, just given my experience. And what I learned is that I was missing out on a lot of real core information that's in the actual job description that I was missing out on, that I could have capitalized on. So definitely whenever you are looking at those different jobs, don't just bypass, or don't do what I do, just bypass the job description or the task. Definitely look into those, because there's different tidbits of information that are in there that will kind of stand out and help you to try and maximize the best possibility that you can for getting that interview. And take notes of the security tools that are used by the company. And a lot of the job descriptions that you're going to see in the next slide, they explicitly list out what tools that they're using. And I never considered this before, but if they're listing those tools out, what's to stop you from looking into how those tools operate, how an organization can utilize those tools to better secure their infrastructure? So in this slide, I just took a couple screenshots from different job postings through Indeed. And a lot of them are almost kind of saying the same thing. There's different tools that they're utilizing in their organization that a lot of their security analysts are using, day to day. And if you're able to kind of see these things, then you're able to kind of add that to your arsenal. So, for example, the upper left-hand corner, we have, Wireshark. So they're obviously using Wireshark in their day-to-day operations, and that's something that I can download from their website and basically just play around with, add different PCAP files into it, just to kind of get a sense as far as how those tools operate and how you can extract valuable information from those tools. So first and foremost, what is a SOC? So as you can see, the source I pulled from Rapid7, and basically what a SOC is, it's a security operations center. It's typically kind of the centralized unit that a lot of analysts will kind of work in and out of. And that's where a lot of alerts for different security incidents will come through. The analysts will typically receive those alerts from different various security tools and pretty much resolve those issues as they come about. So the first security tool I want to talk about are SIEMS. So SIEMS are security information and event management. And typically what these tools will do is aggregate data from various sources within the organization and filter it into one medium. And what I have here are just different examples of either free versions or tools that offer free trials for their SIEM products. So you can see here we have Graylog, Snort, Splunk, Elk Stack. All these again are free, or they actually have free trials that you can utilize. I know with Splunk, you can download their enterprise version of Splunk and utilize that for 60 whole days to kind of prepare you for, a job interview or for a job role that you're looking, to be considered for. And just utilizing those tools to kind of not only become familiar with it, but be able to proficiently articulate what it is that they do and how you're able to utilize this tool to extract valuable pieces of information. So definitely understanding the basics is integral to being able to articulate that. So whenever you're in an interview and you're being asked about what is a SIEM, how can you utilize a SIEM to respond to incidents, you'll definitely be prepared to answer those questions. So one thing I did, I was actually preparing for an interview for a SOC analyst, and I knew that they utilized Splunk as their main SIEM. So prior to the interview, I downloaded Splunk, utilized that 60 days free of Splunk Enterprise, and I went to threatfeeds.io. And if you haven't been to the site, it's definitely a valuable site. Many different valuable resources as far as data that you can ingest into Splunk. And that's what I did. I went ahead and ingested that data into Splunk and basically went ahead and, oh, 1 second. Sorry about that. Went ahead and just kind of maneuvered my way through those feeds, just kind of getting familiar with what data is being extracted in that Splunk interface. And being able to do that prior to that interview allowed me to articulate the best possible way I could as far as how Splunk is reacting. 1 second. And what can be done to maximize my knowledge utilizing that Splunk interface. So like I said, again, different tools are available for free or free trial versions, and definitely recommend to go ahead and utilize that to your advantage prior to your interview or preparing for that job role. The next tool are intrusion detection and intrusion prevention systems. So I got this from Palo Alto Networks, and they're similar, but there is one main difference, is that intrusion detection systems are going to detect any type of potentially malicious activity and send you an alert. They're not going to do anything as far as stopping that malicious activity. All it's going to do is send you an alert saying, hey, notice something that might be suspicious. It requires your attention. Go ahead and take a look at it. The intrusion prevention system is going to do that as well, but it's going to actually stop any potentially malicious activity from happening. And that definitely requires some sort of configuration on your part as far as knowing what to block, what to allow. So we'll talk a little bit more about the intrusion detection system first. So there's host-based intrusion detection systems and network-based. So with host-based, it's isolated just to that endpoint that the intrusion detection system is installed on. It's not gonna, alert you on anything outside of that particular endpoint. So in a home lab, if you're gonna utilize just the host-based, just be aware that it's only going to detect any alerts on that particular host. Network-based intrusion detection systems are going to alert you on anything within the network that you have configured for that. So definitely having that familiarity on use cases for those two or for intrusion detection system within the organization is definitely going to go a long way as far as being able to articulate that. And here are a couple of different examples of, again, either free or free open source or companies that are offering free trials for those. So we have OSSEC, Security Onion, Zeek, and Suricata. Now, in the intrusion prevention system, like again, it's going to do basically the same things as the intrusion detection, but it's going to prevent that malicious activity from occurring. So if it recognizes that there may be a malicious process that's trying to run in the background, it's going to stop that based off of those configurations. So same thing as with the last slide, some are free, while others do include free trials. So here's a couple of different examples of intrusion prevention systems that you can utilize in your home lab. The next tool is going to be vulnerability scanners. These are very important because what they're going to do is scan and detect any vulnerabilities that are currently present within the organization. So understanding the use cases of the vulnerability scanners is definitely going to go a long way. Not only are they identifying vulnerabilities, but they're reporting on those vulnerabilities in order to evaluate the risk associated with them. Typically in an organization, whenever that information is presented, usually there's other teams that are going to come in to kind of discuss remediation for those particular vulnerabilities. And so when they're evaluating the risk, there's a couple different things that they can do. We can either accept the risk based off of like a cost benefit analysis. We can mitigate the risk utilizing the tools that are already in the organization, or transfer the risk to a third party. And within these vulnerability scanners, there's two different types of scans that could be used. One is internal, which is within your internal network, and the other is an external scan, which is basically kind of scanning the perimeter of the network just to see if there's any vulnerabilities where outside attackers can penetrate your network. We also have a couple different examples that you can utilize. Again, either free open source or free trials. We have Insight VM from Rapid7, we have Nessus, and OpenVAS. The next tool we have are firewalls. So firewall, the network security device that's going to monitor incoming and outgoing network traffic. And based off of the rules that you have configured, it's going to either allow or block that particular traffic from coming into your network. Typically, firewalls have always kind of been that first line of defense whenever you're securing your network. And they can either be hardware, software, or they could be both as well. So within our firewalls, they're usually placed between areas of low and high trust. What that does is pretty much kind of act as like a barrier to keep your sensitive assets and information safe away from anyone that's not authorized to view that. And it's going to manage traffic using filters or lists that you configure. And there's multiple different firewalls that are available. There's web application firewalls, next generation firewalls. So kind of having that knowledge on the different types of firewalls and their applications will definitely help you whenever you're interviewing for that security role. There's a couple different examples here of the different firewall that you can utilize. SonicWall is a free firewall. There's also Palo Alto, Cisco, and Fortinet, which are paid firewalls, but some again they do offer free trials. So now that we kind of have kind of like a bird's eye view of the different security tools that are involved um, within a security operations center, now how do I use these tools? So there's a couple different resources that you can use that I've found. One being YouTube. A lot of people utilize YouTube to pretty much learn about anything. So what's to stop you from learning security tools from YouTube? All I did was just type in CrowdStrike. CrowdStrike has their own, YouTube page that actually tells you how to install their tools, gives you brief overviews of, the different dashboards that those tools have, and just to kind of give you familiarity with those particular tools. So YouTube's definitely a great resource. Just be cautious as far as because anyone can upload the content. So you definitely want to stick with the actual content from the company or that organization just to make sure you're getting the correct information. Another resource is Udemy. There's always kind of I guess, different viewpoints on Udemy because again, it is based off of user content. So definitely kind of approach this, with caution just to make sure you are getting the right information. But I typed in intrusion detection. There's over 1,000 results on videos that cover intrusion detection. So that's also another resource that you can use. That's more paid content, so just be aware that if you're going to be signing up for some, there are some free courses on there, but a lot of them actually do have a lot of the content is pretty much fee-based, so you'd have to pay to access that course. Another third-party resource is Pluralsight, or sites like Pluralsight, where it's more subscription-based. You're paying either a monthly fee or an annual fee to access their library. One second. And basically, once you're subscribed to their service, you get access to their full library. So I typed in Splunk here, and it actually presented courses on the different videos that they have regarding Splunk. So, if you're able to pay for a subscription base, you, again, have access to their full library. You can definitely learn a lot from those. And what I consider an oldie but goodie is Cybrary. I actually started out with Cybrary many years ago. And back when I started, it was all free content. Now they're kind of transitioning to more subscription based, but they still have a lot of free content on there that you can utilize to your advantage. But yeah, these are all different resources that you can utilize to kind of prepare you for that InfoSec role, understanding the tools and just the different resources available. So definitely take advantage of those. So now, kind of the age-old question of how do I get experience before experience? So I know that this is definitely a question that comes up a lot, especially for those trying to transition either from just general IT into InfoSec or recareering into InfoSec. And this was kind of a challenge as well for me because I wasn't able to kind of utilize any of my past experience to transition into security. So there's a couple different things that I found that kind of helped me out. And one is just setting up your own home lab. What I did was basically just use virtual machines through different operating systems and just basically played around with those. I know everyone learns differently, but my approach was learning, with hands-on, and that's how I kind of learned the best, is by being more hands-on. And setting up your own home lab is definitely going to kind of give you that hands-on experience. Within your home lab, you can familiarize yourself with these different security tools. So installing these tools into those VM virtual machines, playing around with those, just getting familiar with, the dashboard, configuring them, things like that. And also too, you have to practice. I threw in this image, is it true if you don't use it, you lose it? And it's true. If you're constantly practicing, honing on developing your skills and learning new skills, it's true that the practice is going to help you become more proficient, more comfortable with it. If you learn everything within a day and then don't even touch it for several weeks, it's very likely that you're going to forget all the information that you learned on that first day. So it's definitely something that requires time, requires practice, just to kind of get familiar with or get comfortable with the tools that you're using in your environment. And last but not least is volunteer. There's a lot of nonprofit organizations who don't actually have security teams that can definitely utilize some help. And that's where you would volunteer your services. I mean, obviously you're not going to get paid for it, but volunteering that time, getting that experience and helping out someone is definitely going to be valuable and something you can put on your resume whenever you are ready to kind of show that experience to a potential employer. So with the home lab, what I've done again is just using virtual machines. There, you can always go the route of buying your own hardware, setting up your own physical lab, but that's not always an option for everyone, just because buying that hardware is going to require money to do so. And it can get pretty expensive if you're having to buy a lot of different hardware. So I went the route of virtual machines. And what that did is it's going to be very low cost. I can always create snapshots of the virtual machine. So if I'm doing something, all of a sudden something just goes crazy and just stops working, I can revert back to that snapshot and no harm, no foul. Virtual machines are not as complicated as they may seem. There's a lot of tutorials out there as far as how to set up, virtual machines, how to set up your home labs, but it's not as complicated as it seems. It's very easy to use and manage. And again, if anything ever does happen, you can always revert back to that snapshot that you created. And again, no harm, no foul. So everyone has kind of their own preference when it comes to virtual machines. I would say the two biggest ones are VMware and VirtualBox. You can download either one and just kind of play around with it, see which one's more comfortable for you. But those are definitely two options that you can utilize when you are building your home lab. But regardless, whichever one you choose, you're going to definitely get a lot of valuable information, or I should say experience, being able to kind of play around, get that hands-on experience within the lab, configuring things within there. And also too, it's a lot of fun. I mean, you're able to basically mimic different things that you would out there in the real world, but in a safe and contained environment that's not going to impact production or anything like that. And so that kind of concludes a lot of the information that I had available for this particular slide. So if there's any questions, feel free to chime in.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Glitch. I am checking the Discord at the moment. There seems to be a couple questions, but people are answering them. And there's no questions inside of the GoToWebinar. So if anyone has further questions for Glitch, I'd recommend trying to hit him up inside of Discord. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone.